So before we get started tonight, which could be longer than many people may have anticipated, well, if some of the people would stop speaking, maybe you would. So what I wanted to ask tonight before we get started, when we come to synagogue or if you're at home, what do you call what we're doing here? You come every week and you have these puzzled looks on your faces. We're what? We're praying. Yeah, that's in one language, but what else is it called? What did your grandparents call it? Not your. we daven. Okay. Does anybody know where that word comes from? It's basically everybody thinks of it as a Yiddish term, but where do you know? Does anybody know where that comes from? I mean, it's been used for hundreds, if not more, years. That when you pray, you daven. What's that? You yes, you bend over at times, but it actually comes from the Aramaic. How many people knew that? See, Tisha knew. She's waving her hand, so I figured she knew. It comes from the Aramaic De'avot Inun, meaning these emanate from our patriarchs. And we know that we give credit to the patriarchs for formulating each of the different services during the course of the day. Shachrit is attributed to Abraham, Mincha to Yitzchak, Mariv to Yaakov. So what this term in Aramaic, De'avot Inun, means is that these it makes sense. These emanate from the patriarchs. But when you put it all together, it comes, De'avot Inun becomes Yudavin. So I just thought that would be something interesting that you could ponder as we begin our davening this evening. We begin Kabbalat Shabbat on page 3 with Yedid Nefesh. Please join me. Yedid Nefesh, Afarach Aman, Mishoch Avdach, El Ritzonach, Yarutz Avdach, Kemo Ayal, Yishtachavel, Mul Hadarach, Yerav Lo Yedidutach, Mino Fetzuf, Vechol Tam, Adur Noe, Ziv Haolam, Nafshi Cholat, Ahavatach, Ana El Narifana La, Beharat La, Noam Zivach, As Titchazek, V'titrapei, V'haitala, Simchat Olam, V'tikyemun Arachamecha, V'chusanal, Bein Ahuvach, Ki Zekama Nisof Lirot, V'tiferet Uzach, Anoili Chamdat Libi, Chusana V'yal Titalam, Higalena Ufros Chaviv Alai, Et Sukkot Shilomach, Tair Eretz Mikvodach, Nagila V'nismechavach, Maherahu Kivamoed, V'chanenu Kimeolam. Turn to page 5, top of the page. Lechu neranena, lechu neranena, lechu neranena, Adonai. Lechu neranena, lechu neranena, lechu neranena, Adonai. Naria, Litzur Yishenu, Nikad Mafanav, Bitoda. Lechuneranena, 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 Adonai. Bismirot, naria lo, bismirot, naria lo. 4 lines from the bottom. Arba'in shana kupidor v'amar toy le'lav heim, v'heim lo yaru drachai, asher nishbati bi'api, im yivaon, al menuchati. Top of page 6. Shiru l'Adonai, shir chadash, shiru l'Adonai, kol haaretz, shiru l'Adonai, Baruch Shemo, Basru miyom liyom Yeshuato, Sapru v'goyim kivoto, B'chol ha'amim niflotov, Ki gadol Adonai, hulal miyod, Ki gadol Adonai, hulal miyod. On page 7, we read in the English Psalm 97 together. Adonai reigns, let the earth rejoice, let the many islands be glad. Clouds and darkness encircle God, righteousness and justice support God's throne. A fire goes before God and burns up God's circling enemies. God's lightning illuminates the earth sees and trembles. The mountains melt like wax at the presence of Adonai, in the presence of the Master of all the truth. The heavens declare God's righteousness, and all the peoples see God's glory. Last 2 lines on page 8. Or zaru Allah tzadik, uli yishrei lev simcha. Simchu tzadikim b'Adonai, v'hodu l'zecher kadsho. On page 9, we read together Psalm 98 in English. A psalm, sing to Adonai a new song, for God has done wonders. God's right hand, God's holy arm, has brought deliverance for God. Adonai has proclaimed God's salvation. God's righteousness is revealed in the eyes of the nations. God has remembered mercy and faithfulness toward the house of Israel. All the ends of the earth have seen the deliverance of our God. Shout to Adonai, all the earth, break forth and sing for joy. Sing praises to Adonai with the harp and the voice of melody. With trumpets and sound of the horn, shout before Adonai the sovereign. Let the sea roar, and all within it, the world, and all dwelling in it. Let the rivers clap their hands, and let the mountains sing together for joy. Before Adonai, for God is coming to judge the earth. God will judge the world rightly, and the peoples fairly. The last 2 lines on page 10. Romemu Adonai Eloheinu v'hishtachavu lehar kadsho. Romemu Adonai Eloheinu v'hishtachavu lehar kadsho. Ki kadosh Adonai Eloheinu. Ki kadosh Adonai Eloheinu. We turn now to page 13, to L'chadodi. We'll do the first 4 paragraphs and then the last paragraph, which we rise and turn to the entrance of the sanctuary. L'chadodi likrat kala b'nei Shabbat nikabela. L'chadodi likrat kala b'nei Shabbat nikabla. Shamor v'zachor b'dibur echad. Hishmi'anu el hamyuchad. Adonai echad u'shma'o echad. L'shem ul tiferet v'lit chila. L'chadodi likrat kala b'nei Shabbat nikabla. Likrat Shabbat lechuven elcha, ki mekor habracha, merosh mikedem nesucha, sof maaseh moshavat chila, lechadodi likrat kala, b'nei Shabbat nikabla, mikdash melech imilucha, Kumitzi mitoch afecha, ravlach shevet b'yemek habacha, v'hu yachamol alayich chamla, lechadodi likrat kala, b'nei Shabbat nikabla, itnari me'afar kumi, livshi bigdei tifartech ami, Ayad ben Yishai Beit HaLachmi Karva el nafshi ge'ala Lechadodi likrat kala B'nei Shabbat nikabla. Please rise. Top of page 15. Boi v'shalom ateret bala Gam b'simcha uv'tzahala Tochem urnei am segula Boi chala Lechadodi likrat kala B'nei Shabbat nikabla. Please be seated. Continue on page 16. Mizmor shir liyom haShabbat Tov lehodot la'Adonai Ulzamer l'shimcha elyon Ulzamer l'shimcha elyon Lehagid ba'boker chasdecha V'emunatcha ba'leilot Alei asar v'alei navel Alei higayon b'chinor Mizmor shir liyom haShabbat Tov lehodot la'Adonai Ulzamer l'shimcha elyon Ulzamer l'shimcha elyon. Third line on page 17. Tzadikat amar yifrach Ki erez balvanon yizkeh Shetulim beveit Adonai Bechatzrot Eloheinu Yafrichu Od Yenuvun B'Seva Dishenim V'Rananim Yehu Lehagid Ki Ashar Adonai Tzuri V'lo Avlatabam. On page 18, we continue with Mourner's Kaddish. Those saying Kaddish who have Yortzeit, those wanting to rise in memory of all the Israelis who've been killed since October 7th, page 18. Yitgadal v'yitkadash shmei Rabbam, v'yalmad divrach yirutei, v'yamlich malchutei, v'chayei chon of yomechon, v'chayei d'chol beit Yisrael, ba'agala uvizman kariv, v'yimru amen. Yehei shmei Rabbam v'varach li'olam, umei omayam. Yitbarach, v'yishtabach, v'yitpa'ar, v'yitromam, v'yitnasei, v'yitadar, v'yitaleh, v'yitalal, shemei t'kedusha b'richum. La'ela min kol birchata v'shiratam, tushbechata v'nechamatam, da'amiran b'yalma v'yimru amen. Yehei shlama rabba min shemayam, v'chayim aleinu, v'yal kol Yisrael, v'yimru amen. Oseh shalom b'imramav, v'yaseh shalom aleinu, v'yal kol Yisrael, v'yimru amen. We remain standing for the Mariv service on page 21. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher b'varo mariv aravim, v'chachma patech sharim, v'vitvuna mishanei eitim, u'machalif el asmanim mesader kochavim, v'shmortechem b'rakiyah kirtzono. May be seated. Page 22. Umavir yom umehevi laila, umavdil ben yom uvein laila, Adonai tzavot shemo, El chai v'chayam, tamid yimloch aleinu yalam v'ohed, Baruch atah Adonai, Amahariv Aravim. Page 23. Avat olam Beit Yisrael, Amcha hafta, Torah u'mitzvot, chukim u'mishpatim, otanu limadeta. Al kein Adonai Eloheinu, v'shachveinu uvkumeinu, nasiach b'chukecha, v'nismach b'divrei Toratecha, uv'mitzvotecha, li'olam va'ed. Ki heim chayenu, v'yorech yameinu, uvahem negeh, uvahem negeh, yomam v'laylam. Yavatecha, al tasir menu li'olamim, Baruch atah Adonai, ohev amo Yisrael. So we just sang about everlasting love, the everlasting love between God and the Jewish people, and now we really put the emphasis on it with the Shema on page 26. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. V'ahavta et Adonai Elohecha v'chol levavcha v'chol nafshecha v'chol miyodecha v'hayu advarim ha'ele asher nochi mitzavecha hayom al levavecha v'shinantam levanecha v'dibarta bam v'shivtecha v'eitecha v'velachtecha v'aderech v'v'shachvecha uvkumecha ukshartam liota yadecha v'hayu l'totafot b'neinecha uktavtam al mezuzot beitecha u'visharecha. We continue silently until the middle of page 28. Leman yirbu yimechem v'imnei v'nechem al hadama asher nishbar onai lahavotechem latet lachem kimei hashamayim al haaretz. Vayomer Adonai Moshe lemor daber el b'nei Yisrael yamarta aleihem v'yasu lahem tzitzit al kanfei b'dehem l'darotam v'natnu al tzitzit hakanaf b'til tchelet v'haya lachem l'tzitzit uritem oto u'schartem ekol mitzot Adonai v'yasitem otam v'lo taturu acharei levavchem yacharei einechem asher atem zonim achareichem leman tizkiru v'yasitem echol mitzotai v'item kedoshim le'eloheichem ani Adonai Eloheichem asher hotzeti echem me'eretz Mitzrayim liot lachem le'elohim ani Adonai Eloheichem Adonai Eloheichem emet. We continue in the middle of page 30. Malchutaho b'ratzon kiblu aleichem Moshe v'nei Yisrael echanu shira v'simcha rabba v'yamru chulam mi chamocha ba'elim Adonai mi kamocha nedar b'kodesh narati lod osef ele malchutecha rovanecha v'okeyam lifnei Moshe zelianu v'yamru Adonai imloch li'olam v'oed v'nemar kifar Adonai Yaakov u'galam yad chazak mimenu baruch ata Adonai gal Yisrael. We continue on page 31 with Hashkivenu, asking God to protect us at night, to help us to go to sleep in the evening, and then to reawaken the next morning. We read together on page 31, cause us, eternal our God, to lie down for well-being, and help us arise, our ruler, to life. Spread over us the shelter of your well-being, and fix in us good counsel in your presence. Save us for the sake of your name, and shield us. Keep far from us enmity, illness, strife, hunger, and fear. Keep oppressors from confronting or pursuing us. Let us be covered by the shadow of your wings, for you are our protector and helper. Mercy and compassion is your rule. Guard our going out and our coming in for life and for well-being from this time forth and forever. Ufros aleinu sukat shlomecha, baruch ata Adonai, aparei sukat shalom, aleinu yakol amo Yisrael, v'yal Yerushalayim. Bottom of page 32. V'shamru v'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat lasod et ha-Shabbat l'darotam berit olam. V'shamru v'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat lasod et ha-Shabbat l'darotam berit olam. Beini uvein b'nei Yisrael oti li'olam, oti li'olam, oti li'olam. V'shamru v'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat lasot et ha-Shabbat l'darotam berit olam. Ki sheshet yomim asa Adonai et hashamayim v'et haaretz v'shamru v'nei Yisrael et hashabbat lasot et ha-Shabbat l'darotam b'rit olam. Uvayom hashvi shavat vayinafash, shavat vayinafash, shavat vayinafash, v'shamru b'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat, lasot et ha-Shabbat l'darotam b'rit olam. Question: how come the woos are on this side and one woo woo, and there's no wooing on this side? All right, just something else to think about. We continue with Chatzi Kaddish on page 33. Please rise. Yitkarav, Yikara Shemei Rabab, Yamadi Rachim Tev Yamlich Malchutei, B'chayechon, Uvyamechon, Uchayerachol Beit Yisrael, Bagala, Uvizman Kari, V'yimeru, Amen. Yehi Shmei Rabba Mevarach, Le'alam Le'omei Almaya, Yitbarach, Yitbarach, V'yishtabach, Yitbar V'yitramam V'yitnasei, V'yitadar V'yitalev V'yitalal, Shemei Kodeshah Brichu, Le'ehila Mikol Birchata V'shiratam, Tushmechata V'nechamata, Damiran B'yoma, V'yimeru. Amen. We continue silently with the Amida on page 35. And as I mention every week, either using the words of the Siddur or your own contemplations of the week that's passed and the week to come. Page 35. Oseh shalom bimramav, hu yaseh shalom aleinu, v'al kol Yisrael, v'imru, amen. shalom, Yaseh shalom, Shalom Aleinu, Yal Kol Yisrael, Yaseh shalom, Yaseh shalom, Shalom Aleinu, Yal Kol Yisrael, V'yimeru. Amen. Continue on page 46. Magen Avot Bidvaro, Mechaye Meitim B'mamaro, Ha'el HaKadosh She'ein Kamohu, Hameniach Li'amo, B'yom Shabar Kadsho, Kivam Ratza Lehaniach Lahem, Kivam Ratza Laniach Lahem, Lefanav Navod, Mirav Fachad, V'nodeh Lishmo, B'chol Yom Tamid, Bein HaBrachot, El HaHodot, Adon HaShalom, Mikadesh HaShabbat, Uvarech Shevi, Umeniach B'Kedusha, Li'amidu Shnei Oneg, Zecher L'masei B'Reishit. Page 48. Yikarav Yikarav Shmei Rabba, Yom Ani Rachi Utev Yom Lichmachutei, V'chayechonu Yom Echanu V'chayir Chol Beit Yisrael, V'agalav Yizman Kari V'yimeru, Amen. Yehi Shmei Rabba Mevarach, Li'olam Li'omei Omayam, Yitbarach, Yitbarach V'yishtabach V'yipar V'terma V'yinasei, V'yitadar V'yitalav V'yitalav Shemei Dekudesha, B'richu, Li'elam Yichol Birchata V'shirata, Tishvachata v'nachamata, Damiran b'yalma v'yimeru, Amen. Yehi shlam min Shemaya, V'chaim aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'yimeru, Amen. Tikra b'al sultan v'adchanu kol Yisrael, Kadama v'hamdi b'shmaya v'yimeru, Amen. Seh shalom b'mramav, v'yaseh shalom, aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'yimeru, Amen. Good Shabbos, once again. So this week's Torah portion is Bahar. Bahar, Har means a mountain. And it seems that after a lot of the most recent Torah portions that we've been reading over the last more than several weeks, almost several months now, those Torah portions dealt more with the construction of the tabernacle and also with the work done by the Kohanim in the tabernacle and the work that they were going to do that was going to continue once the temple was built. But now we come back in this week's Torah portion to Bahar, to the mountain, meaning Mount Sinai. And at this Torah portion, God is conveying some of the laws, some of the rules, some of the mitzvot that concern an agrarian society. So while these particular laws fit that society, it doesn't necessarily fit everyone or is incumbent upon everyone, because not everyone was a farmer, but nevertheless it still impacts them during the course of these particular mitzvot. And the ones that I'm talking about are the laws of the sabbatical year, where for 6 years you farm, you harvest, you plant your land, and in the 7th year you let it go fallow. You don't do anything. You don't plant, you don't seed, you don't harvest. And along with that, there is what's called the Jubilee year. So if every 7 years there is the Shemitah year where you don't do anything, every 49 years, so 7 times 7, for 7 times 7 cycle, you keep that going until you come to the 50th year. That 50th year is called the Yovel, the Jubilee year. And in that year, all indentured servants go free, and also the land returns to its original owner. So it goes back to those who received the original deed, let's say, on that land. And these are the laws basically for the people who are owning land, who are owning slaves. But really, in essence, the Torah is looking toward less fortunate people, and it talks about less fortunate people in regard to these laws, because right after these laws are the laws of usury, that you can't charge usurious fees for lending money, so a Jew is not allowed to charge lending fees to another Jew. And that basically comes from this week's Torah portion. But in the context of all that, in the context of when we're talking about people who are less fortunate, you also have to take into account, A, that this is probably the shortest Torah portion of the year, of the parshiot of the year. But in this Torah portion, the term brother is used 10 times. So when God is talking in terms of this particular Torah portion, he's talking in terms of each of the Jewish people being a brother and a sister to one another. And the verses of the Torah are couched in terms, when your brother does this, or when this happens to your brother. And that's where it comes from. We're supposed to be looking out for our brothers and our sisters. And it's also very interesting that psychologists and social workers talk about the most basic driver of enthusiasm towards helping people being that of helping members of your own family. So in that context as well, the Torah was ahead of its time in terms of psychologists and social workers, because the Torah was thinking of your brothers, and really your actual brothers, your extended family. And that's what Jews think of themselves as. They think of themselves as a single family unit, as an extended family of that unit. To whatever countries Jews came to, whatever shores they landed on, they were always coming to a place where usually there were aid societies that had been set up for when Jews come, when following those who had been the pioneers, so to speak. And I'm sure that a lot of us can remember the little blue pushka, the tzedakah box that we had somewhere around in our home that we were always feeding, whether it was before Shabbos or before a holiday. We were always looking to give and to help our fellow Jews in times of trouble and distress. And what the laws of this week's Torah portion give us is a means, by being able to do this, but it gives us a means, an access to holiness, and it makes it part of our lives. If you picture those little blue pushkas, it was part of our lives. I remember in school, first week of school, if you didn't have one, all you had to do is raise your hand and there was another one for you to take home. I had 2 younger brothers, so we had 3 in our house. But as I said, the Parsha begins with the word Bahar, the mountain. And it says in the Torah, the portions start off 75 times, Vayiraber ad Hashem Moshe, and God spoke to Moshe. And if you were ever up at the Torah, if you read the Torah, if you're ever trying to find a place in the Torah, you're always looking for where it says Vayera Be'erat Oshet, where God says it to Moses. The problem is it says it 75 times, so you have a hard time finding the place anyway. But in all of the 75 times that it says, and God said to Moses, it's very rare that the terminology is, and God said to Moses, and gives a geographic location. In this particular Torah portion, it says, and God spoke to Moses at Mount Sinai. Something special is happening here. And Rashi says that something special was because when the people got to Mount Sinai after crossing the Sea of Reeds, and after 7 weeks of walking through the desert, 7 weeks since they left Egypt, they came to Mount Sinai, as Rashi says, as one person with one heart. At that moment, the mountain was the shining monument. It was the holiest place on earth. It was the binding force that held the Jewish people together as one people, as one nation. And the aspect of unity was to become more than just one experience. It was to become our creed. The law of Parshat Bahar allows us to create that experience at Sinai every day in both our holy land of Israel and outside of the land of Israel. Our mutual responsibilities to our brothers and sisters, to our society, came from this Torah portion. The holiness of Mount Sinai continues to rejuvenate, to reverberate, to energize, to lift, and to inspire each one of us in our lives each day. Bottom line is, we are our brother's keeper. We didn't need the war that we're currently engaged in to prove this, but we should know that we are not alone. Our family is with us, and we are with them. From Mount Sinai to Jerusalem and beyond, we are one. This week has been all weeks have been tough since October 7th, but this week has also been a very difficult week. We are not only engaged in warfare, but we are engaged in lawfare. The international courts of the world have been weaponized against us, which in the end, I'm sure, will lend itself to a lack of credibility to the international justice system, and that at best become a joke of the world. We have, as I mentioned in my class last night, we are hit with terms that have no place in international law, and the worst part of it is that ignorance is our own worst enemy. We have people like Amal Clooney who sit in judgment of Israel. God must have a sense of humor, and with this, he probably couldn't resist. But nevertheless, I really would prefer that I never hear that any of you were watching any of George Clooney's movies. I'm sure Rosemary would be very upset at this point if she were alive. But all kidding aside, we, the Jewish people, remain steadfast. And as the Torah distinguishes us in this Torah portion, we are our brothers and sisters' keeper, and we look forward to the day when sanity rejoins the world and the world moves on to better times. Shabbat Shalom. Please rise as we continue with Aleinu on page 51. Aleinu l'shabeach ladon hakol, lateit gidula liotzer breshit, shelo asanu kigaye haratzot, v'lo samanu kimishbechot adama, shelo sam chalkenu kahem, v'gahor aleinu kechol hamonam. Lifnei Melech, Malchei Hamlachim, Hakadosh Baruch Hu, Shehu Notei Shamayim v'Yosei Haaretz, U'moshav Yikaro b'Shamayim Imal, U'Shchinatu Zo, V'Gavhei Meromim, Hu Eloheinu Eino. Emet Malkeinu Efesulatam, Kakatu B'Toratam, Yadata Hayam V'Hashegota Elevavecha, Ki Adonai Hu Elohim, B'Shamayim Imal, V'Al Haaretz, Mitachat Einod. V'nemar v'hayan Adonai l'melech al kol haaretz, Bayom hahu, Yeh Adonai echad, U'shemo echad, U'shemo. May be seated except those who are in mourning saying Kaddish, those who would like to stand in memory of all those killed since October 7th. In our synagogue family this week, we remember the following friends, family: Hyman Greenberg, father of Libby Taplin; Louis Weinstein, loved one of Barry Fine; Paul Denholtz, uncle of Helen Schwartz; Joseph Robbins, the father of Linda Cohen; Louis Goldstein, grandfather of David Green; Bessie Rosen, mother of Murray Rosen; Sidney Cohen, father of Diane Reeves Cohen; Richard Weinstein, the father-in-law of Rabbi Leonard Feldman; Carl Newman, father of Sheldon Newman; David Denholtz, father of Helen Schwartz; Jessie Steinberg, mother of Patricia Lovett. May their memories be for a blessing. Mourner's Kaddish, page 53. Yitgadal v'yitkadash shmei Rabbah, v'yalma divrach yirutei v'yamlich malchutei, v'chayechon v'yamechon v'chayei l'chol Beit Yisrael, ba'agala v'zman kariv v'imru amen. Yehei shmei Rabbah mivarach li'olam u'me'el mayam. Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitramam v'yitnasei v'yitadar v'yitalev v'yitalal shmei d'kedusha brichu leila min kol birchata v'shirata tushbechata v'nechemata da'amiran b'yalma v'yimru amen. Yehei shlama Rabbah min shemayam v'chayim aleinu v'yal kol Yisrael v'yimru amen. Say shalom b'ramav, yaseh shalom, aleinu v'yal kol Yisrael, v'yimru, amen. I'll invite Stanley Amernick, our co-president, for some announcements. Or, Stanley, you've changed. I hope it wasn't the dinner. I think if you just stand here and wait for Stanley to come up? No? You have an announcement? Go right ahead.
This is so embarrassing. And for the announcements tonight, here comes Stanley.
Shabbat Shalom. All right, I have Joy up here for a special reason. Come here. I heard somebody told me that tomorrow is your birthday, and also in the congregation tonight, Elon Kotler is having a birthday this weekend. So, happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Joy Elon. Happy birthday to you. And now for the announcements. Very good chorus. So, first of all, I want to thank Rabbi Allen for leading the service tonight and for the Devar Torah. Tomorrow's services in the main chapel here at 9:30 a.m. and Sunday at 9 a.m. in the small chapel. We still have ongoing Torah and takeout by the rabbi at noon on Zoom next Friday. Crossroads and Conflict lecture next Thursday night at 7 p.m. And I would advise all of you to attend. The rabbi has done a wonderful job the last 2 weeks on explaining the conflict going on. It's really wonderful, and you should all get a chance to either attend the last session or look at it on Zoom. And next Friday night, we continue with our Friday night happenings at the beach with dinner at 6, services on the beach at 7, followed by a high caloric Oneg Shabbat and vodka drinking, if we remember to bring the vodka. If you would like to sponsor wine before dinner, confer with Bernie. There's a pool party for the YJPN at Lauren's house Sunday, and it's her birthday Sunday, so Yom Haledet Sameach. Also, next Saturday, we will celebrate the 75th anniversary of Manny Newmark's bar mitzvah, followed by a gourmet lunch. So all come to help Manny celebrate this important milestone. So that's what's happening at TBE for the upcoming week. For more information, read the bulletin.
That's been a new experience all my years in the synagogue business. You know when you can say, now that I've seen it all. Now I've seen it. Well, I'm sure there's more to come, right, Stanley? Also, this Sunday is Lag BaOmer. So just keep that in mind. You know what? Come tomorrow to Shul and you'll hear more about Lag BaOmer. Let me put it that way. Rather than start explaining it now and then re-explaining tomorrow morning, come to Shul tomorrow, come to Davin tomorrow, and you'll hear more about Lag BaOmer. We'll conclude the service this evening with Adon Olam on page 54. Adon Olam Asher Malach Iterem Kol Yitzir Nivra Liet Nasa Bechet Azai Melech Shemo Nikra V'acharei Kichlot HaKol Levado Yimloch Nora V'hu Haya V'hu Hoveh V'hu Yiyeh B'tifara V'hu Echad V'yein Sheni להמשיל להכבירה, בלי ראשית, בלי תכלית, ולא העוז והמשרה, והוא אלי וחי גואלי, וצור חבלי בעת צרה, והוא ניסי ומנוס לי, מן הכוסי ביום אקרא, בידו אפקיד רוחי, בעת אישן ויעירה, ואם רוחי יביאתי, אדוני לי ללא יירא. Shabbat Shalom.